Hello and welcome to the Roy Rogers News Channel. Thank you so much for watching. And today, for our next PokeMMO interview episode, I have a man that has accomplished quite a bit in the PokeMMO culture. Patrouski, would you like to say hello?
Yo, what's up, man? How you doing today? Happy to be here, best friends.
Certainly. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. And yeah, I should note that Patrouski has done quite an amazing job in terms of making a mark here in the PokeMMO culture, and I certainly look forward to the video publications that you have upcoming in the future. So thank you so much for your contribution here on PokeMMO, Patrouski.
Dude, you're too nice to me. I'm just happy to be here, man.
Certainly, certainly. Yeah, I remember back when you were on my show and I was trying to promote you. I was like, hey, can you subscribe to Patrouski, people? People that are watching, can subscribe to Patrouski. He has a pretty useful YouTube channel, and nowadays, I know people that come here from your channel, so they know you first and then they know me second. So yeah, but I am still going to ask people, if you have not subscribed to this man yet, go ahead and subscribe to Patrouski. He has some pretty useful stuff here on YouTube, and I appreciate him for all the work that he has done here on PokeMMO. So thank you.
Dude, thank you. I want to make sure it's clear, like, you were here way before me, and I feel like it's really important to always appreciate the work you did for like years and years and years before others stepped into the video making scene. I feel like you carried the scene quietly for a long time, and I think that goes a long way. So thank you.
Certainly. Yeah, I try my best, I really do. And actually, did you know that I phased out the Mayor Best Friends YouTube channel because there's so much self-help stuff these days, and it takes quite a while for me to get a script out in terms of doing all the self-help publications, and yeah, now there are so many resources, and essentially when I launched the Mayor Best Friends YouTube channel, there was actually a lackluster scene of self-help content, so I wanted to fulfill that, and now you all are fulfilling the self-help scene pretty well, and I appreciate you all for partaking in the self-help space on YouTube.
Yeah, gotcha.
Certainly. And also, I should note that Patrouski and I go way back in 2015, and yeah, sometimes I don't want to say stuff here, but when the not safe for work conversation got a little bit too intense in the TeamSpeak era, sometimes I'll just kind of veg over in you and Josh's channel, because you all just have the most mild conversations, and I love being in your TeamSpeak server. So thank you.
Yeah, that was so long ago. Back in like 2013 to 2015.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just me and Josh. We'd always talk about hey, what's the best EV set for? It was just Pokemon. All we cared about was PokeMMO. All we ever talked about was PokeMMO. What's the best EV set for this? IVs for this. What you catch today? All we cared about was PokeMMO.
Right. Yeah, certainly. I mean, yeah, I remember those conversations. Like, oh, what a relief! Thank you so much for having me on as a guest on that server back in the day.
Yeah, no, TeamSpeak was a fun time for PokeMMO.
Certainly. Yeah, we can just reminisce as friends, and, but we have an interview segment to film, so let's go ahead and dive into our interview, shall we? Patrouski,
let's get to the questions.
All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and ask the very first question here. Patrouski, how long have you been playing PokeMMO?
Since June 18th, I checked my credit card. June 18th, 2013. I'm actually coming up on my 10-year anniversary the next 4 months or so.
Wow. Yeah, I played since August 4th of 2014, so we're just a little off by a few months. So, yeah, wow, that's quite intense. I mean, 2013, do you remember the scene back in 2013 and what it was like?
I really do, funnily enough. The best way to describe 2013 was, looking back at my comps, it's hilarious. Two of my best comps back then were like a Girafarig with 30 special attack and no other good IVs, and it had hidden power ice. And that was a big deal back in the day. Hidden power Pokemon were a big deal. I had a Stantler with 25 plus and 3 stats that was a Calm Mind mixed attacking Stantler, and that was legit decent / good. There was so many weird competitive Pokemon back in the day. That was the weirdest part. Shiny hunting wasn't as big back then since Hordes and Sweet Scent didn't exist, but the PvP was interesting.
Right, yeah, certainly. I remember the Hidden Power Ghost Breloom used to be very important for PvP.
Yeah, that's one, yeah.
And then when the physical special split occurred, then the hidden powers didn't matter anymore for Breloom.
Yeah.
Because hidden power is now special all across the board, So,
yep.
Yeah, as I mentioned in my money making video, it is good to adapt to change. Don't ever be stuck in your ways, because otherwise, that is when you get stuck in a rut. So,
Absolutely.
so there we go. And feel free to watch that money video if you like. And actually, I would like to ask this next question because I feel like this really transitions really well. So,
Mhm.
Petrosky, how did you come up with that amazing Magikarp strap over in the Safari Zone?
That's an interesting question. It's a good one. So, if I remember correctly, a teammate like tipped me off to it because I had come back to the game and I didn't really know. I was like pretty broke and I didn't really know what to do for money. And a teammate kind of tipped me off to it. I wanted something semi AFK or something pretty chill to do while I played RuneScape on the side. And someone tipped me off to it. Hey, you can go catch a Safari Zone. You know, they kind of vaguely mentioned it, and then I really explored it. And I remember as soon as I saw accounts there, I saw alt accounts camped out there named like Safari Alt or like Magikarp Farm. And for any RuneScape player that knows, when you see accounts that are built to do a method on the side, it's usually like, oh, okay, you know, like this is something good. This is something that
Mhm.
people are doing consistently all the time to make like side money on like an alt account. That was a big sign for me where I was like, okay, this is something special. And my first PokeMMO video ever, if I'm not mistaken, was actually loot from 1,000 Magikarp. Was me testing that method, and it was pretty good. And I ended up I took that loot from 1,000 idea from what's his name? It was a RuneScape YouTuber, really cool guy who always like loot from 1,000 or loot from 10,000 stuff. And he's took that idea from him and I implemented it into PokeMMO scene.
Wow, that's awesome. So, yeah, actually, I have a friend in game that plays RuneScape pretty often. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, do you still play RuneScape or you don't have time for it anymore?
I really don't have time for it anymore, which is pretty sad. I was a huge RuneScape gamer, old school, of
Mhm.
course. I had a maxed main account that I used to play like fantasy EHP and like late game competitions, skilling competitions, and I was the 74th person in the world to max an Ultimate Iron Man. Not third page, not the craziest thing, but I do have a maxed main account and a maxed Ultimate Iron Man, which is nothing to scoff at. You know,
Wow, congrats on the Iron Man thing.
yeah.
Wow, that's quite intense. Like, I'm not really much of a RuneScape player, but I've heard about the
Mhm.
Iron Man accomplishment. Yeah, that's pretty major.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan.
Certainly. So, yeah, going back to Pokemon related matters though. What activity do you enjoy doing in game? Do you like the competitive scene? Do you like shiny hunting? What's the activity that Petrosky enjoys doing?
Definitely shiny hunting by far. Still, I still dip my toes into like PvP here and there, but I think if you broke it down, or I kind of always break things down into like the three main activities, the three main post game activities of PokeMMO, which are, in my opinion, in my favorite order: shiny hunting number one, money making number two, and then PvP number three. PvP I still enjoy, and it's really fun to theory craft in PvP. I think NU was in a really poor state, in my opinion, for quite a while, but I actually there's been a lot of positive changes, and I need to re-dip my toes back in there and kind of test things out and see what's going on because there's a lot of cool changes going on in NU. I think it might be a lot more healthy of a format. Well, after Osmerill gets banned, that Pokemon's probably way too strong. Sitting like a 59% win rate or something right now, but overall, shiny hunting has always been my bread and butter.
Imagine what happens if the fairy type gets implemented on Pokemon. Then it's
Dude, I'm so scared to see what Osmerill, Clefable. I'm so scared to see what happens to these Pokemon. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Togekiss might just scare the dragon
Yeah.
types.
Whew, yeah.
Man. But yeah, going back to your in-game career, and this is the one question that I lacked to ask you because I was so amazed about your answers previously on my previous episode. But now I'm going to ask this question because I remember this question. When did you aspire to start up the most popular English social media presence here on PokeMMO?
Man, why are you trying to butter me up? I think I think it's crazy. I mean, I obviously I didn't set out to do that, right? I think you got to understand like it wasn't my goal, right? My goal when I started Pokemon YouTube was to create a channel that could answer questions for people. I wanted to hopefully bring in some revenue from it because at the time I was really looking for a job or looking for some sort of side sort of thing. But my main thing was, hey, you know what? There's like, I know a lot about the game. I've been playing this game for like, 9 years at this point, and there's so few resources online, or all of those resources are like, all the good resources
Mm.
are buried in the forums. Like, you have some fantastic guides, really in-depth stuff on the forums, but
Thanks,
they're all
man.
buried in the forums. Yeah. And like, but like a lot of casual players don't see that, right?
R-
Most players just go to YouTube and look up stuff, and there's so little video content for this surprisingly more populated game than people realize, right? And I thought there was like, it was just a huge open space for PokeMMO, and I love this game, and it just happened to be the perfect fit. I love this game. I knew enough about this game. I was passionate about this game, and there wasn't much of a space. It was definitely just like right person, right space, right time. A lot of luck involved.
Certainly. Yeah, so that is quite amazing, Pat. I mean, I commend the amount of work that you do here on YouTube. And also, I should note about the guides on forums. That is partly why in my forums profile, I made a specific section in my About Me section that
Yeah.
has a guide index. And you can click on that spoiler, and then you can check out the guides either I've written or guides that other people have written. And I make sure to give credit to those people. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Big
I
deal.
yeah, I wanted to try to make my performance profile into a sort of like a sanctuary for people trying to look for answers to certain questions. So
Yes. Yeah. That's awesome.
thanks, man. But yeah, I do have to ask about your personal in-game matters. So, what is your most memorable shiny in-game, Petrowski?
Still the Shuckle, as you can see right beside me. I love this guy. I mean, he was just such an insane moment. I mean, I can link him to you really quick. He
Yeah,
is
sure.
the most people that know me know about the Shuckle. He is like my bread and butter. He's a lot of the reason why I started PokeMo YouTube.
Right.
I uploaded my shiny reaction of him, and I got like a pretty good traction on it. And I was like one of my first well-performing YouTube videos.
Wow.
And he was just insane. The fact that I got him on stream was insane. The fact that I found him in the Safari Zone was insane. The fact that he was at 105 encounters was insane. The fact that he was my second shiny, which, if you don't know, I went extremely dry for my first shiny, an estimated around 200 to 300,000 encounters. So I went like 200 to 300,000 encounters dry, got a shiny Stunfisk, which is what I wanted, and then I got a shiny Shuckle, an extremely rare shiny at 104, 105 encounters. So my RNG just like flipped like a pendulum, right? Like just switched immediately, a pendulum, just totally switched, like totally evened out in a matter of, a couple hundred encounters. And the fact that I caught it on the fourth Pokeball, the fourth Safari Ball, and it really could have fled anytime. Yeah, it's just a crazy shiny.
Yeah, certainly. That's quite intense, man. And yeah, congratulations on the Shuckle. I mean, by golly, that's like really hard. How did you catch it in the Safari Zone? Like, would you use bait and stuff? Like,
No, no,
man.
no, no. Yeah, it's a great question. I always tell people the mathematically best way to catch a shiny in the Safari Zone. It's a really good PSA to tell people, just spam Safari balls and hope for the best. That's all you can do. That is mathematically the best way to do things. Don't get tricked into baiting. Don't get tricked into rocking. Don't do any of that stuff. Just spam Safari Ball. From everything I've seen, there's like literal PhD level like essays and studies and articles that people have written about the PokeMO Safari Zone. It's hilarious. It's worth the read. But yeah, just spam Safari balls and hope for the best. And I remember even Aquays reached out to me after. He was like, dude, he was like, I'm so proud of you. Like, you didn't, bait. He was like, he was like, I might have baited. Even he's a really veteran, aged shiny hunter. Like, he's really,
Wow.
really good. So for him to be like, man, I might have been tempted to bait, but you made the correct choice mathematically. And it's like, yeah, I don't, that was huge props from him. And yeah, you got to just spam Safari balls and hope for the best.
Yeah, certainly. Now, we don't know the future as the time of this taping, but I'm going to ask this just in case. What's your reaction going to be if Shuckle can be found in Johto via a lure location? I don't know what the future is going to hold, but
Yeah.
what's your reaction if Shuckle gets found in Johto for in a certain location?
This is such a good question. I've had this question a lot on stream, and I love answering this. People have said, what happens if they make like a times 5 horde, times 3 horde, single encounter for Shuckle? What are you going to do? I say that I'll be really happy. I don't care if my Shuckle gets devalued. I already got him in the Safaris, and I already had my moments. I don't care, right? What I will do, I said I've made this clip on stream. If they release a single encounter shiny hunt for Shuckle that is uncommon in a single encounter or less, I will hunt for one more shiny Shuckle. If they release a times 3 horde location for Shuckle, I will hunt for 3 more shiny Shuckles. If they release a ×5 horde spot for Shuckle, I will hunt for 5 more shiny Shuckles. That's my promise. To the community. That'll be a really fun series, sort of challenge to cover if that happens. We'll just have to see what happens.
Wow. And if the Pokemon developers are listening, please implement that for Patrouski here. I want to see more Patrouski content.
I would be okay with them doing like I don't care if it gets devalued. I'd be okay with a ×5 like Chuckle Horde. Like I really would, because you can still see the date, you can still see when I caught it. It's still in the Safari Ball, which is awesome for me. I feel like, man, I don't know, it's tough because you don't want to devalue too many shinies, but I
Right.
don't know. I'd be down to hunt more shiny Chuckles. I'm always down for more.
Yeah, certainly. But now I got to ask about your better half here. So, what is your girlfriend's most memorable shiny?
So my girlfriend Casey, for those who don't know, she caught her first shiny Litwick, which is her favorite Pokemon, her favorite shiny. That's definitely her most memorable one. She's not like super into PokeMMO, but I convinced her to play, and she's really enjoyed it, and she's really gotten into it. She plays other video games. She's like a bit of a gamer, but she loves Pokemon and stuff. She does have 2 shinies now, Litwick and Sandslash. She loves them both, but Litwick is definitely her favorite. She did evolve it into Chandelure. And we thankfully recorded her reaction
Nice.
for her first shiny, which, dude, I think anyone's first shiny in PokeMMO is such a unique feeling. It really makes you feel like, wow, this is possible, right? Because 1 out of 30K sounds so rare in your head and in theory, but once you get it, once you grind for it, you get, you're like, wow, this is actually possible. Maybe I can keep doing this, and it's a really good motivator.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, by golly. My guess is that the reaction over at the Petrowski household was probably one of joy and happiness when you encountered that shiny candle.
Yeah, she's pretty quiet. She was pretty humble about it, but she was definitely excited.
Wonderful. Wow. Someday, if I have a girlfriend in real life and if she ever plays PokeMMO, I hope she encounters a shiny as well. So,
Yeah, good
yeah.
luck to you.
Thanks, man. Now, I do have to ask this next question, though, that is probably the question that a lot of people ask. What is your most memorable moment in game for you, Petrasky?
Whew. Like, obviously, I could say the Shuckle thing, but I think my better answer would be I'm a huge fan of any event that's held in Silphco. You might know what I'm talking about
Oh,
because,
yeah.
like, yeah, back in the day, every big event, and still to this day, every big like official, serious, organized event, dude, I don't know, for whatever reason, doing an event in Silphco just feels so much more serious and feels so much more passionate, and it feels like you're part of a larger thing. I don't know, it's so interesting to me. I love being in Silphco for events. Specifically, we did our Shiny Wars team draft there, and that's an awesome feeling.
Nice.
Like doing a team draft there, where it's like people calling out names, like, like round 1, pick 2, Petrowski, like head over to this table. Like, it's a
Oh.
sick feeling. It's awesome.
No, I'm not really well versed in the whole shiny war thing. I remember hearing about it on YouTube. How did it turn out? Did your
Mhm.
team win?
Unfortunately, we didn't win. But dude, it was a shiny wars for the books. It was
Well,
such a good war. We didn't take the W. I think we ended up with second place, but everyone that participated just killed it. And man, Team Raikou, which was Aqua's team, they just got so many incredible shinies. Like there was two Safari caught shinies in one day. There
whoa.
was 2 egg shinies got during the event within 1 week. There was a shiny Eevee and a shiny Beldum, if I recall correctly. It was a while ago now.
Wow.
Dude, there were so many. I love how the event encourages the players to go get rare shinies. It's not just ×5 horde shinies, over and over. It's like shiny Eevees, Beldums, like shiny Safari Teddy Ursa. There was a secret shiny Safari Zone caught Teddy Ursa.
Well,
Like
really?
yes, like crazy stuff. Like, dude, it was such an insane event. It was crazy, crazy stuff happened. Um,
Whoa.
yeah, those events encourage players to shiny hunt way harder than they ever would have. If you haven't done a like shiny wars type event or just some sort of event like that, man, it's invigorating. It's so fun.
You know the beauty about doing the shiny events are? It's that you can be able to have a trophy of your Pokemon in the form of a shiny Pokemon. It's like your trophy
Yeah,
in the PC, you know?
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, certainly. But now I'm going to ask a more personalized question for you, Petrowski. So, how did you find PokeMMO?
I answered this question a couple times on stream. It's a good one. Dude, back in the day, I used to just Google combinations of things. So I would just Google like Pokemon MMO. I would Google like Call of Duty MMO. Like just combine two things that I liked. MMO. Um, I would look up like Pokemon MOBA, for example, like a combination of like Pokemon and League of Legends or whatever. I would just like combine these combinations of things, and I would just Google to see if fan made games like this existed. That's how I found PokeMMO. It's how I found Pokemon Tower Defense, which is another great game. Yeah, I loved. That's how I was always looking for that new game to sink my teeth into and really invest thousands of hours into. I was never a huge fan of jumping around games. I always wanted to find that one perfect game that I could really invest into.
Certainly. Yeah, and there are a lot of people that are happy that you're here. I mean, I'm certainly happy you're here. I mean, I love working with you almost every day. When I see a Patrouski video, I'm like, thank you so much for your contribution. Like I say that to myself, I'm like, thank you, Patrouski. Like you release like what, one or two videos a day? Like that's pretty amazing, man.
Yeah, one video a day now. I will
Wow.
say, I don't know. Looking back, I don't even know how I did this. For the first year of my YouTube, I did 2 videos a day plus like streams whenever I could. I don't even know how I did that. Looking back, that was not sustainable. Now I do 1 video a day and then streams Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. EST.
Wow. Now, do you mind if I ask a spontaneous question here?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did you come up with the name Petrosky? There are a lot of people that actually ask me this. Like I don't know the answer, but
Yeah.
how did you come up with the name Petrosky?
So yeah, I love this question, and maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but this is always my answer. I could be, kid memory is funny. There was a children's book that I liked growing up. I don't remember what it was called. I don't remember. I've tried to find it and I can't, so maybe I'm just remembering it wrong. But it was about these little green monsters that would essentially steal kids' clothes to sneak into human schools, even though they were monsters, to try to learn. And I just thought it was really cute and wholesome, and like one of the little green monsters' names was Patrouski or something of that variant, and I kind of just took that from that. Um, and he was a bit of a troublemaker, and I always liked that.
Ooh. Hopefully you didn't get yourself into trouble. Oh man. Um. So yeah, like I love the silence in interviews. Like I hope you didn't cause any trouble, and the viewers are going to say, "Uh oh, Petrowski's a troublemaker."
I was definitely a bit of a troublemaker as a kid, okay, but I've grown a lot, so that's just how it goes.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, no problem. And a lot of people are adventurous, and you know, they tend to explore the more daring parts of life. I shall say so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I do have to ask, do you have any advice to give for people who want to launch a social media career here on PokeMMO?
Yes, probably too much advice. I'm gonna keep this I'll try to keep this short. This is probably the question that I could spend the most time on. But I'm gonna give an in-depth answer, but hopefully not too long.
Yeah, no problem.
My number one tip, number one, I have tons of tips, but number one is I always say that people focus way too much on having the perfect gear or setup before even starting. And I think it's kind of like a procrastinating tactic to do this, which I fully understand because I can procrastinate quite a bit, but it's really important to recognize this and work around it. I always try to tell people, just start making stuff. Don't wait until you have that 2K PC, that $200 mic, $200 webcam, et cetera, et cetera. Like it's essentially, if you're doing that, you're investing in a skill you haven't even developed or built yet. It would be like, imagine you wanted to become a carpenter and you bought the most expensive hammer like right off the bat, when in reality you don't even have the skills yet to properly utilize that hammer, and a normal hammer would do you just fine, and that actually would allow you to practice the skill faster. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
YouTube is really like anything in life. It's really just a grind and putting in the hours, and some people do make it big overnight, but those are really the niche cases, and 99% of YouTubers have been doing this for like 5 to 10 years generally. Obviously I'm still pretty small comparatively to everything, right? And I still have a lot to learn, so I don't mean to be speaking like too out of my depth, but I've been making content for longer than people realize. I've been streaming as far back as 2013, and I've streamed many games like PokeMMO, Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering, RuneScape, to various degrees of success, all the way up until 2021 when I started finally making PokeMMO YouTube content. And before that, I actually tried RuneScape YouTube and failed miserably. So I feel like there's tons of practice and hours that people don't usually see when they see a successful, quote unquote successful YouTuber, right? But I could really, I could talk about this forever, and it's definitely tough to get all my thoughts concisely put out there. But yeah, my main piece of advice is just start making stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. Just put stuff out there. People may really like your videos that you don't even like sometimes. It's really common that I'll upload videos that I'm the least proud of, and then those get like the most amount of views. It's really common that like videos I put 30 hours into with editing and scripting get the same amount of views as a video I spent like 5 minutes on. And that's just like kind of how YouTube works sometimes. And it can be a roller coaster. That's my long answer.
Wow. Yeah, certainly. And there are plenty of YouTube channels that you can watch. I know that there's a guy, what's his name? Nick Amati or some name like that. Yeah, he releases some really great YouTube self-help tips. Although there's one part of his analysis I'm gonna have to differ on,
Mhm.
and that analysis is that he says YouTube has a bunch of competitors. And my opinion is this: PokeMMO YouTubers, don't be a competitor, because if you're a competitor on
Mhm.
PokeMMO, then otherwise you kind of isolate yourself in a little island. I mean, just to give an example,
Mhm.
and I don't want to give this guy any sort of name recognition, but there's a guy that is like the anti Patrouski, and I have more subscribers than that guy. Like, I have more subscribers than that guy. So yeah, so don't
Yeah.
be a person that is on his or her own little island, you know? And try to work together with people. Like Petrowski is like one of the
Oh yeah.
nicest guys. I've known
Oh,
him since 2015. Like work together with content creators. Don't pit yourself against people, and you should be fine. Right?
yeah. That's definitely something that I really want to improve on in 2023. And I'm not even good enough at right. Collaborations, dude. Oh my god, they're so powerful, and I'm so not on that train, and I really need to. But it's tough. Collaborations are really tough. Trying to find the right time and the right headspace for everyone involved is tough. Having the right amount of energy to make a video isn't always easy. And, sometimes you have bad days, and it's tough to plan everything and get that scheduled.
Right. Yeah, certainly. Now, I don't mean to ask a real life question, but some of our viewers heard a caller walk by. Do you have a dog or cat that that
Oh,
maybe?
that was all right. That was just a roommate. Sorry about that noise.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, I figured I would ask about that, but yeah, I mean, do you own any pets? Like, yeah.
I don't own any personally, but I go back and forth. I have my own place, which I don't have any roommates at. But then I go back and forth between me and my girlfriend's place. And she has two roommates who are like, it's like kind of us and it's our friends, right? It's not like roommates, our friends.
Right.
And they have a bunny, a snake, and one dog. I think that's everything. I think I'm not missing any pets there.
Wow.
Or no, there's two snakes. I'm sorry, two snakes. They each have a snake. So two snakes, one bunny, one dog.
How do they monitor the rabbit to make sure it doesn't fall into the snake cage?
Everybody's in their own cages. So like, there's like the bunny has a huge cage. A lot of people talk about like, you shouldn't keep bunnies in cages. Dude, this guy loves this bunny to death. He treats him so well. Biggest cage I've ever seen. A bigger cage than most dogs get. It's kind of hilarious. It's such a good. It's funny, but yeah. So the bunny has a huge cage. The snakes both have two huge cages, and then the dog obviously hangs out, no cage, runs around.
Wow. Now, does the bunny rabbit does it eat a carrot and does it say, what's up, Doc? Or
Not quite. He mostly just poops a lot. Most most bunnies or rabbits they just poop so much. That's really it.
yeah, certainly. My apologies for the interview. This is like probably the most casual interview that I've had on the Roy Rogers News Channel, besides Canine Excel. But you're like now you've taken the number one rank for like the most casual interview that I've had on the Roy Rogers News Channel. So, congrats on that.
I like that. I feel like that's a good atmosphere. I feel like it's a good atmosphere to create. I feel like it's good to, just chill and hope people feel like they're a part of the conversation almost or feel like they're here. It's part of why I would love to do sort of a podcast thing, wink, wink, at some point with some PokeMMO people. So hopefully people will be interested in that one day.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. And I'd be more than happy to join you if you're interested in that. So,
Yes, absolutely. He'd be a first pick.
thanks, man. Now I do have to ask, like, do you have any closing thoughts before we end our segment?
Closing thought. Really, it just comes just gonna sound cheesy, right? But it really just comes down to saying thank you to everyone who watches Pokemon content. We couldn't be here. We couldn't do this without you. I know it's a semi-small community, but I think it is larger than people realize. And it's for such an incredible game that I just personally really care about. And it's insane that I can make content for a game full time that I played out of pure passion for 8 years, and never thought anything could come from it, right? A lot of people thought I was wasting my time. But it's cool to just enjoy something so much and be able to turn it into a career. And I know it sounds cheesy, but it's super true and it's super legitimate. And I'm just gonna keep trying my best to make the best Pokemon content possible every day. And I hope that I can always be a positive asset to people's daily lives. That's the biggest thing for me. I really hope people walk away from my videos and my content being like, "Hey man, I enjoyed that. That made me smile. That informed me of something. That entertained me. Et cetera, et cetera." And then yeah, want to come back for more. If people watch my videos and they don't like it, I don't, that would stink, but that's okay, right? And I don't want them to feel like they have to watch, right? I want people to, yeah, come back for good stuff and stay away if it's bad stuff.
I'm going to say something, and I don't know. You might be touched, you might not be touched, but one of the reasons why I promote other content creators, and actually when I was mayor for like the first year in PokeMMO, I was trying to figure out like how to promote other content creators, and the reason why I did that was because of that exact concern that you had. Why is it someone doesn't like my delivery on Roy Rogers? I want them to
Hmm.
be able to have a refuge over in another YouTube channel, so like yours or
Yeah.
Empty Birchfield. Like people have so many options now, and I appreciate the content creators that have really done a lot of work. I mean, when I recruit people into the YouTube Alliance, one of my things I tell people is that I want to be the gasoline that helps propel your success. But you have to be the driver behind that success. And Petrowski,
Yeah.
you are an excellent driver. I do have to say that.
Thanks, man. It's, man, I always say I do put in a lot of work. I always say like it's so much luck. Like my work ethic is really really intense and really really high. But from how I developed that work ethic is mostly just luck based on personal experience and based on my life. I don't know if you can like I don't know if you can like just manifest or create work ethic, right? I feel like it's something gained through life experience, and I don't know if it's something that anyone can just have. It's really just luck, which sounds kind of dumb, right?
Right. Yeah, certainly. I mean, you know, everything has a process, and, it's just a matter of how much work you're willing to put into it, and, the good
Yeah,
old
for
elbow.
sure.
Yeah, the good old elbow grease. So,
I do think if you're able to just put in more hours and more hours, it has to pay off eventually. I think that eventually, like most of the time, right?
right. And now I know I'm supposed to be ending the segment, but I have one more question because a lot of content creators ask this. So,
Mhm.
when would be the point where you can just quit your job and go full time into being a content creator? Because I know a lot of people ask that, and I figured that you would be the perfect person to answer that question.
That question is just so dependent on everyone's specific case, right?
Right.
People always ask me this, and I mean, it literally just depends on how much money you're making, right? Which sounds really shallow, but that's the truth of it, right? I knew a YouTuber who I love his content. Oh my goodness, Get the Great Games, really small guy, really niche YouTuber. He does like graded video game stuff. He's really really informed. He's a really really smart guy in the field. And he went full time at 6K subs, which is really, really low, right? And people are asking, like, oh, how could he, no way he could make enough money. How could he do that? And it's because of really specific circumstances. He like got a huge sponsorship from like a thing that did great at games. And like you can go full time as low as something like 6K subs. It's not going to be the average, but it's possible. And I think it really depends on just how you interact with your community, how much financial support your community gives you, which I mean, I'm super lucky that people seem to like my content enough to want to go above and beyond and support my content. It's unreal, right? It's never, never needed, but when people do, it does help out a ton. And I always think it's just like, yeah, it really comes down to how much money you're making, which sounds really shallow, but that kind of matters or comes into a lot of factors, I guess, right?
Yeah, and also depends
So,
on yeah, and to add to that, it also depends on where you're living. Like you can live
yeah.
in Tennessee, and then the real estate is pretty nice, but you can live
Mhm.
someplace in the high rise at Los Angeles, and you got to fund
Yeah.
that. You
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a really boring answer, but it's literally all going to come down to make to meet your living expenses. Yeah. I live a pretty frugal life, thankfully. I have like pretty low rent. And I eat pretty frugally, et cetera, et cetera. I'm a pretty like low spending guy. Yeah. It's always how I've been.
Certainly. Yeah, it's always good to get a financial planner. Uh,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to make this personal. I really don't, but not to get into my real life. I kind of work a little bit in this finance, but I don't really do the
Mhm.
planning. I just, I go more into the stock market,
Mhm.
but yeah, like it's very important to go in with a game plan, and certainly for you, and like I know that you and your girlfriend, especially, you can work jointly and you could make a excellent
Mhm.
income that way. You know, I know some married couples that do that, and they also get a pretty nice tax break there. So yeah,
Mhm.
you know, I think you should. I think you and Casey should consult with a financial planner. You know.
Yeah, probably at some point. It's always good.
All right, but yeah, sorry about that. I don't didn't mean to venture into my real life here, but you know, Pat's a
No,
good
you're
friend of
totally
mine.
good.
Like Pat's a good friend of mine, and you know, I like look. I've known Pat. You know, I'm gonna pop up my friends list right now. I've known Pat since 2015, December 19th of 2015. That is so long ago. Man, the time just flies by, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Like think about that. Like what, like 8 years ago? Dude, that's nuts. It feels like it was like two.
Oh, wow. Yeah, like, I agree with that. I mean, like, Pokemon, the thing that I love about Pokemon is that it, like, 2014 Pokemon is not the same as 2023 Pokemon. There's always,
Radically different. Yeah.
yeah, there's always new dynamics that take place, and you know, I certainly love to help out people in game and you know and give advice, and yeah, I try my best to not be a Pokemon boomer. You know, I try my best to not do
Yeah,
that,
I feel you.
but yeah, like I, I'm sorry, I have to ask the question: how do you not be a Pokemon boomer, considering all your years in game? I mean, you're essentially almost the same age as me.
Dude, it's tough. I think this is something. I mean, this could even be related to real life. Um, you gotta always question yourself, and you have to always question, like, hey, like, is this actually good? Like, is this actually, why don't asking yourself why don't you like something is really important, and making sure you can actually logically back it up. Like, I'm really skeptical of stuff and updates to the games, and this comes from a RuneScape mentality too, where like old school RuneScape people are so skeptical of every update coming to the game, which I think is good, but you have to be able to be accepting as well, right? So with lores is a really good example. When lores came out, I was really skeptical. I was like, what does this add to the game? What's the purpose? I don't really see the purpose of this update. And then as I sort of explored it, I didn't think it was going to be a good update. As I explored it and actually tested it myself, I was like, oh wow, like this adds a money sink. It adds like a very, very slight buff to like fishing, shiny hunting hourly, which like isn't too strong or too bad. It's actually like worthwhile. It's like the perfect amounts of cost per hour, as well as like locking starters behind like a little bit of cost. It was such good balancing for so many things that I didn't really think needed the balancing. But as soon as I tested it, I was like, oh wow, like this is nice. I think it's really important to adhere to data, really important to adhere to like your own personal findings and stuff, and just making sure you're open and accepting to new things, even if um don't be too reactive, right? It's always important to like you may feel something initially, and it's okay to change that feeling, right?
Right. Yeah. And also with the Kangaskhan, I have to mention Kangaskhan. I have Kangaskhan on my screen here because as you were talking about lures, you know Kangaskhan used to be a Safari exclusive, and now
Yes.
with the lures, it's not. You can actually catch it at the cannon entrance over at Island 7. So yeah, you could be able to attract the Kangaskhan. Just go south of the Pokemon Center, Island 7. In that
Yeah.
first patch of grass, use the lures and you should be able to encounter Kanga. I I buy expert lures in bulk,
Hmm.
usually after a
Yeah.
gym run, and then you can just try to fetch that Pokemon. Now, I can't really do it so much because these days I'm kind of tight for cash, but yeah, I mean, if I need a Pokemon, at least I know that I can get Kangaskhan. I don't have to hunt in the Safari Zone for a
Yeah.
Kangaskhan. I can get my own Kanga breeders, and it's great. Also, another one that I would like to talk about is Happany, because now that
Hmm.
essentially knocks out Chansey for being a Safari exclusive. Happany is a pre-evolution, and now you can encounter Happany over at Route 209, which
Hmm.
essentially means you don't have to go into Safari anymore for Chansey. Isn't that great?
Yeah. Those kind of changes are incredible. And it'll be the same thing when it's added to Johto, and having that secured way to catch is a big deal.
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to all the encounters we can get here. Well, here on PokeMO in the future Johto region, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to covering Johto whenever it launches. So yeah, well, Petrosky, I know it's been a long-winded interview, but it's like almost like two friends here for coffee catching up. You know, it's like I really love chatting with you, and your live streams are quite excellent. I love that as well, and And
Yeah.
thank you so much for all the work that you've done here on PokeMMO.
Dude, thank you, man. I mean, you've carried everything for a long time, so I appreciate it, dude.
Certainly. I try my best. I try. But yeah. And thank you so much, Petrowski, for also promoting a lot of content creators behind the scenes. A lot of content creators kind of PM me and they say, yeah, so Petrowski encouraged me to get into YouTube and, so thank you so much for promoting other content creators as well.
Yeah, dude, there's always more room in this space. I always say that there's so much more room for content creators, and I think people, especially people like fitting a niche, is like really important. So if you're like a PvP expert, like AFC Adino, or if you want to do like a really important series that needs to be done, like Teenums with his like catching every Pokemon in every location, like stuff like that. There's for like the Pokedex completion. There's so many cool things that people can do, and or like just creative content. I always say I would love to see people do like sketch comedy or like movie type stuff, like just like fun stuff, like fun creative stuff in Pokemon, like joke type content. And I've seen a bit of that now. There actually have been like some shiny hunting like joke compilations, and it's awesome. It's awesome.
Wow. I mean, just to kind of touch on your point there, the Teenums with the PvE type content, I find
Mhm.
that pretty nice. I mean, he does a lot of research about the alpha Pokemon, and actually, I featured one of his strats over on the PokeMMO Money video that I did recently. So,
Mhm.
yeah, like Teenums has really done a lot of research, and yeah, wow, that guy is quite a
He
treasure,
works
isn't
hard.
he?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, certainly. So, yeah, thank you so much, Petrowski, for being here in the studio, and thank you so much for being a part of the Roy Rogers News Channel once more.
Dude, thanks for having me. You're a legend.
Thanks, man. And I certainly look forward to having you on again. This is not the last time I want to have Pat on. I want to have him on the Roy Rogers News Channel because he has made such an impact here on PokeMMO, and I appreciate his work that he has done. So I want to have him here on the Roy Rogers News Channel more often. So I hope.
Yeah, we'll see. I need to do more collabs for sure.
Certainly. And I know that a lot of people these days go from Petrowski's content to my content, but just in case it's the other way around, I'm going to say something here. Please subscribe to Petrowski. He has pretty useful content here on PokeMMO. So, yeah, if you're not subscribed to Petrowski yet, please subscribe to him. I'm going to put a little thing there so that way you can be able to click the subscribe button and hopefully Pat can grow even further. So, thank you so much, Petrowski, for being here on the Roy Rogers News Channel.
Thank you, man.
And with that, we're going to have to sign off. This is the Roy Rogers News Channel. Don't forget to comment and subscribe to the channel, like the content that you see here. And this is the Roy Rogers News Channel signing off. Fast, accurate, unbiased. Roy Rogers News. Oh, there we go.